From his Central Texas Command Center, deep behind enemy lines, the information war continues. It's Alex Jones and the GCN Radio Network.
All right, for the next hour, Alan Watt joins us. Then we got Gary Franchi popping in the next hour, as well as Ralph Nader. And then Larry Pratt of Gun Owners of America to talk about record gun sales. The all-time record in the last week since the election of Barack H. Obama. I want to talk about the banker takeover, how they're openly setting up world government. I want to get into the staged election and how he's using subliminals, NLP. A lot of people are picking up on it right now, how they're fooling the public with their man Barack Obama. Meet the new boss, same as the old boss. I want to get more into TV and the subliminals there and just how dangerous it is to watch television and to not be aware of what's happening. He's got the website cuttingthroughthematrix.com, and he is also a radio talk show host in his own right. Alan Watt, thanks for coming on with us.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here, Alex.
What do you want to tackle first? The economy, the new Bretton Woods, the birth of the world government finally really happening. I mean, they've always had great control, but now total control, or should we get into the staged election first? What do you want to get into first?
I think really all the elections are staged. We know that when you go down through your histories, and you find in every country in the Western world, since before World War II, in fact, you go through this farce of election. But what you do find when you go into history is that there is an agenda, there is a mandate to bring in a new system, and regardless of the party that seems to get in, the agenda roller coasts forward. It never slows down. When one party gets in, they never throw out the laws from the previous party. They stay on the books. And so it's a continuation. This is exactly what you find the founding fathers talked about. Jefferson talked about it. They said, when you see the same agenda going on between the changes of houses, he meant the Congress parties, he says, then you know you're under tyranny. And you see, we are under tyranny. This whole financial bubble is all planned. It's a big business plan with steps and stages all written out long in advance and gone over by think tanks to see all the repercussions. Just like a chess game that they've gone through before they even move the first piece. They know every part of the introduction of the steps and how the public will react. So we are being trained to react the way they planned us to react. The new Bretton Woods system, is time now to bring it in. We find that John Maynard Keynes, who brought in the Bretton Woods system, really top eugenicist in his field, and an economist, they're always tying together economics and eugenics. He said this is only one part of the system. The next part of the system will be introduce a world of service where every individual is responsible to government, and the government will be literally in your bank account, deciding what you earn, what you spend, what you buy, if you can even buy it, etc., etc. This is the next step they're going into now with the new agreement, and it ties together with what Karl Marx talked about, which was the three massive trading blocks of the world under a world government. And the United Nations now is being brought up to its full strength through the IMF, International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, etc., to take over the roles that they were actually designed to do in the first place. So we're going under total cradle-to-grave socialism, where you will have a planned life from birth to death. That's what's coming in, step by step by step. This is 100 years war, they have said, at the beginning of 9/11, 2001, and by the end of the 100 years war, they hope to have their brave new world in where literally you'll have a new species of humans at the end of the 100 years who will serve the small dominant minority.
And by the way, every time we raise that, people make fun of us. That's BBC, AP, Reuters, headlines. The elites, the anthropologists, the biologists are saying that they're going to engineer us with drugs and education and breeding and sterilization to be a, quote, goblin-like, that's a quote on the BBC by the eugenicist, goblin-like creatures, and then there'll be these, ethereal angel-like creatures. And you talked about social engineering. Notice they're saying in England, we're going to ban cheap alcohol. Well, that means they can ban any type of cheap food, too. We're not going to address why people are falling apart and being such drunks. We're going to just try to, tax people. Or in England, we're not going to let roadside shacks sell things that we say are unhealthy, like hot dogs. We're going to say what you can serve. I mean, think about how that sets a precedent for total control. The same thing now coming in here. So that's what the national ID cards are all about, is tracking what we do, regulating. First it starts out with genetic screening. Now they're saying, well, we're going to make you have genetic screening, and then we're going to say whether you can have a child or not. I mean, they're really pulling the stops out right now.
Yes, they are. It's total tyranny from every possible angle, even here in Canada, which is no doubt the same across the British Empire, as they still call it, the Commonwealth. They're bringing out laws to allow police to come into any home they want on any suspicion that there's any chemical containing ether, like starting fluid for your car and so on. In other words, they're giving themselves carte blanche to get into anyone's house under any pretext. So you are looking at a system where you will have no peace and privacy, and you'll be trained to accept that as a normal. And so when your neighbors get raided or you get raided, there's no big deal about it. It'll become a normal part of it.
And by the way, the British government admits, everyone I know, including myself, who's been to England or who is a citizen there, a subject, the cops just randomly walk up and ask, where are you going, what you doing? I'm going to put you in a database now. And they're rude to you by design to prepare the general public to interface with them.
Yes. That's right. It's all training. Everything really is to train the public. And we've had 30 years or 40 years of sci-fi movies getting us ready subconsciously for this present system that's coming in now. And it's no big deal because we're familiar with the idea of a totalitarian system where the masses live in hovels and rubble, and you have this massive army, well-equipped, that just go in like the Star Wars goons. And this is how we've been programmed to accept this. There's no outcry from the public because you can train. It is true. You see, behavioral psychology and mass psychology has been so well studied and introduced and used. And this falls in line with what Bertrand Russell and others, big players in their day, talked about. They said that the public will come to conclusions and never know how they arrived at those conclusions. It'll be by osmosis.
And then they value the propaganda they're regurgitating as if it was their own. They hold on to the lies. I mean, I have people email me saying, you're making up FEMA camps, you're making up Barack Obama wanting national service, you're lying about, and I'm like, but here's the information. They just go, we don't care, you're a liar, we choose to believe you're a liar. Can you speak to national service and how that ties in?
National service, in fact, Obama had it up on his own website, a speech he gave, I think, in Vermont, that he was going to make a call for basically national service. He's since removed that from the site, but I have the PDF here. And so I think in January that's what you're going to hear is this call for... You see, they want to militarize the whole of society, and to do so, once they've found this in totalitarian regimes like the Soviet system, like the Nazi system, you must get the youth involved so they will grow up thinking that wearing a uniform is quite natural and serving the system is quite natural, and that the heavy indoctrination they'll have through the schooling system will augment that, and they'll never break free and see from the outside as to what's actually happening. This is an old technique, and they must militarize the system for their 100 Years' War.
And by the way, Obama's announced it. He's written about it. So is his chief of staff. He's given speeches. It was on change.gov. Then he takes it down, says it's all lies, none of it's true. His followers then agree because they're not ready to launch it yet. Then in a few months, he'll openly launch it, and then there'll be no discussion about how they lied and said they weren't launching it.
There was no discussion at all. And you'll notice, too, what's very interesting is that in Obama's speeches, he never pins anything down into a concrete fact. It's all emotive terminology he uses, which is standard in politics, but he has good scriptwriters. But he does mention certain phrases, catchphrases like world citizenship in his speeches. So here is a president of a country, a national country, talking about global citizenship. And the average person hears this and doesn't really ask, what does he mean by global citizenship? Well, this is the term used by the Rockefeller Foundation that's right behind Obama. And Rockefeller himself has been giving out World Citizenship Awards to all the big players for the great work for the last 50-odd years.
And he keeps saying you've got to sacrifice. You're going to have to give. This is going to hurt. And the revolution is giving everything to the government, being a slave, but then chanting, yes, we can, feeling powerful.
That's exactly right. It's a world of service. And this goes back through the World Citizenship Society into the Royal Institute of International Affairs and Council on Foreign Relations, who have drafted up the amalgamation for the Americas. They admitted they were the ones behind the drafting up for the amalgamation of Europe. These are private organizations who take their orders from the Queen of England and the nobility of Europe. And this is their age-old dream, to bring in world citizenship, but not a happy little land where we all play